Yesterday, we talked about being thorough uh, on noting the objects of your meditation, especially like in the walking or sitting. And also we're being thorough or precise when the occasion is right for us to do that during the daily activities such as eating, like opening a door, closing a door, and so on. Also, we mentioned about noticing the intention. To notice the intention here, especially for the beginners, when we begin to label and notice the intentions, usually or most of the time, the mindfulness will follow through to the actions. And therefore, with that, it creates that continuity of mindfulness. And the continuity of mindfulness is what we really need for the development of this vipassana. Sporadic mindfulness is not good enough. Although it's good, but not good enough. This vipassana demands continuous mindfulness. That means you have to make the effort moment after moment, again and again, continuously. Noticing this intention, in a way, when we try to notice the intention whenever we change our postures, our four major postures, from sitting to getting up to sitting down, from starting of walking, from standing to start to walk, or from walking, then you come back to the standing. So whenever you change your postures, then it will be good that we exercise noting the intentions. Sooner or later, when your progress begins to deepen, these intentions become more obvious. Actually, during that time, you really feel the mind that arises, the intentional mind. Then that time when that intentional mind arises, then only the actions starts to move. Without that intentional mind, the movement will not take place. So it will shows you in many different ways. Even later part when you go deeper into the practice, even your thinking, your planning, your thoughts, everything, it comes with that intention first. So a lot of the states of mind and our actions have the mind behind it. As the Buddha says, the mind is the forerunner of all things. So, although in the text, in the suttas, it mentioned quite deep on the intention, but if you're a beginner of this meditation or you have not done this meditation before, then this intention is only intellectual topic, intellectual subject only. So therefore, when it comes to this vipassana, you have to experience them directly in your own way. So you have to be precise. You try to notice this intention and so on. You can go deeper as you go deeper into the practice. Even a movement of an arm, a single movement, it also preceded by a lot of mental or a lot of the mind that arises passes away together with the movement too. So you extrapolate it to all your actions, all your thoughts, every moment of your waking hour. Then this state of mind, it's there. Even you're sleeping too. You think that a dead person won't move. If it's moved, something wrong. I mean, dead person, if in the beginning part, yes, it still move, but not mentally anymore. Sometimes, the rigor mortis, they contract and then the body flip up. Yeah. But that is not because of the mind. That wasn't it because due to the nature of the body. But when we are sleeping, the mind still process. But we are not so alert during that time, of course. Hardly we know what is going on while we are sleeping. But the mind, in the Abhidhamma, it says that there's still a mind that is more subtle. I wouldn't use the word subconscious, but somewhat like the mind is still carry on to do your breathing, to do your you move here and there. So at night still the mind is still there. Yeah. Anyway, so we notice this intention as much as possible in every vipassana retreat. You have to do this intention. And it will be good that when you notice this intention, then it also is good you report them. You tell me how you notice them. Perhaps I will able to help you further in noticing how you do these intentions. Now, let us go to the next one. You see, when we talk about being thorough, the principle of being thorough is to be able to discern phenomena from this and that phenomena. That means you can notice it, the sensation, like this hardness is different from the warmness is different from the pressure is different from the movements. You can notice so many things when you start to pay close attention to your meditation objects. So the factor of discernment, factor of it able to segregate all the components, all the objects, and you can notice them as, you begin to notice them as they are. So too when it comes to noting the intention also. It's also the behind it is also discernment. Here it segregates different things. It discerns different objects. Here it discerns the mind and the body, and how the mind is one thing and how the mind is interacting or conditioning the nature of the body. So again here it's discerning. You will see so many forms of discerning connecting with this intention. The next thing also involves discerning. To involve this state of discerning is to discern further whether your actions here will be suitable or beneficial to you as a yogi or not. Well, these actions at home or when you are outside, it can be perfectly alright. You don't even think about them. But when you are here, they are completely different story. Same action, but what is different is in your mind. Yeah? So that one, you have to discern them out in order for you not to fall into its trap. Yeah? So here is about checking yourself every now and then whether that action that you do is suitable or not. Yeah. So as I said, that all our actions are preceded by the intention. So, other words, in a deeper sense, it's more like whether the intention is wholesome or unwholesome, whether the intention is appropriate or not appropriate, or whether it's beneficial or not beneficial. So we have to go a little bit deeper into this. Because if we don't do that, all our bad habits cannot undo. Let's take a few examples. When you are walking here, you felt like you are very drowsy. What are you going to do? Go back and sleep. Go back and sleep. You see, it's exactly what I'm trying to say. Here, you are drowsy. Your job is supposed to meditate, but the drowsiness arises. Then you ask yourself, but now when you're walking during that time, the desire of going back to the room is very strong. Perhaps here may be good in the sense that your quarters or your room is very far away. Yeah. Some other places, your room is just that door. You come out is your walking hall, you know. So within 10 steps, you reach your bed. And that is a very strong temptation. Whenever you feel tired or you feel drowsy and you want to do it, you want to take a nap. First 1 or 2 days, I don't mind, because it's quite tiring. We wake up at 4, and at 9:30, 10 o'clock. Yes, but after a number of days, as the body starts to adjust, yes, you still feel there's some degree of sleepiness, but it's not as strong as the first or second day. So this time you have to learn to manage them. And in order to manage them, first you have to have that discipline. So let's say you're walking, you're trying to notice, and then it feels drowsy. So when it felt drowsy, the desire of wanting to go back to the room. But then here you have to acknowledge and you have to be aware of the state of mind that it wants to do that. So here you have to hold it back. Yeah? You have to override that thoughts. Actually, you have to override their intention. Yeah? You have to override that particular intention or the wish to do something. So you have to override, you have to hold back. And then when you hold back with this to prevent yourself from doing what is not beneficial, and here while you are drowsy or a little bit drowsy, what you should do is that you should find some way how are you going to improve on the walking so that it will reduce the drowsiness. Perhaps you need to go slightly faster. Perhaps you want to go outside to take a breather. maybe it helps you. It helps you, then good. Rather than we take the shortcut, oh, or rather the lazy cut. Uh, so, so this is what I'm. One thing is what I meant over here. Yeah. So you have to check yourself. Perhaps there's another thing, like not only on action, but also on our speech. Again, here, while we are here, we are supposed to observe this noble silence. Then perhaps we may see our friend, or we may see another yogi. Then there's a desire for you to talk. Yeah. You kind of like, long time no see. Yeah. Long time you don't see each other, and then kind of like you come to the retreat once a year, you meet. You kind of like you feel very happy to see your good old friend, and then the desire wants to come up to say hello, and so on. How are you? Yes, you can do that at home, or you can do that outside. But here, if that desire arises, even your friends also, even your good buddy, you have to hold back that desire too. You may think that, what's wrong with just say hello, and what's wrong with that? After all, it's I mean, it's very natural thing for us to do that. That's what we think when we are out there. But here, the moment you start talking, that's where your mindfulness is start to break. Just give you 5 minutes of say hello, how are you? You're gonna have like 3 hours dealing with your restless mind. Yeah. And it's not something you should take it lightly. Even now you see even your phone is with you. And then you tell yourself, don't see the phone. But your desire overcomes you. And I just need to check that message. Just all you need to do is just see that particular message. You put it back down, you come back here again, then that message, that thing will start rolling in the mind. And roll and roll and roll. Your story is all about that. So it really disrupts half a day or few hours of your meditation. Yeah. So again here, we have to check. When you want to do something, you ask yourself, will it be beneficial to me or not? Most of the time, all these things are really not helpful for the retreat, during the meditation retreat, unless there's a life and death situation. Yeah? Normally, after we after the yogis have done some retreats, sometimes they prefer the organizers to keep their phone for them. Yeah. Then you're kind of like off grid. You kind of like disconnect from the world for a while, and it feels good actually. It feels good. It feels very light. Yeah. Rather than you have that burden of wanting to know about information, messages, and so on. Yeah? You want to keep having ideas into the mind, or entertainment, and so on. Yeah? So as long as you can put it aside for a while, it is very helpful. So you check yourself. Every now and then, you have to check yourself. Even sometimes, as small as like even drinking water, even as small as like you drink your water um, while in your formal sitting or walking. Yeah. Say even like when you're sitting and you felt thirsty, you could still got half an hour to go. Yeah. Should I get up or should I not get up? Then you ask yourself. Sometimes our mind will start to complain, or your mind will start to doubt yourself. If I don't get up, after dehydrate, how? And your mind start thinking, start thinking. But half an hour, you just only have half an hour. Just settle the mind and keep noting, and just stay there. Or you sit there, half an hour gone, still half an hour to go. You feel like getting up. And then is it necessary for you to get up or not? Then the question here, it all depends right now. Yeah. Sometimes there's not much pain. No, you sit there, no, it's not much pain, but the mind is just lazy to sit. Kind of like sit there, it doesn't feel good, and then I just get up. That also you have to watchful of that intent and of that state of mind. Because if you were to start doing it, if you do it once, it's not really a problem. But when it happens again and again, every sitting, then every time you come to half an hour, the energy cut off because you want to get up for no reason. But let's say you sit there and then 15 minutes later, the pain starts to arise. Strong pain. And you try to note the pain in different ways, and you try, and then you come to the half an hour mark, it's really unbearable. Then what are you going to do? Sit there further. Which actually, ideally, would be good if you can keep it going. But a lot of times, we could not able to do that. The mind is going to explode. The anger, the doubt, the thinking is so much you cannot even control. It's too painful, other words. So what can you do? Perhaps during that time, yes, you stand up for a while. You make an intention to get up for a while, do a 5 minutes or 10 minutes walk. Then after that, you come back and sit again. At least you can still able to meditate, which is beneficial to you in that way. Although that is a second choice or third choice that you should think about. First choice is don't get up and keep it going until the hour is up. So you have to learn to all these things, small things that we take it for granted when we are out there. Here, every small thing you have to take note of it or not, or to take note of your action, whether it's suitable or not, whether it's beneficial or not. Sometimes, once in a while, we also notice that the meditators, the yogis, when they do the walking meditation halfway, and then they feel like even go to toilet. Again here, whether it's necessary for you to do that or not, because there are yogis who do it just because they don't want to do walking meditation. They just want to go to the toilet and just close the door and just relax. Nobody sees you. Nobody look at you. So sit there and 5 minutes later, and then you get your energy up, and then okay, you come back again. So that one is not necessary. But then there will be times it's going to be necessary, because if you are walking halfway and then you're having stomach ache and then you need to go, you better go. Don't hold back anymore. Yeah. Because if I don't mention this, sometimes yogis just listen one part of it. They listen one extreme or the other extreme. Yeah. Sometimes the yogi listen that walking meditation, just walk, cannot do everything else. So even they can stomach ache as well, cannot do anything else. So they have a wrong idea. Yeah? We are not forcing you that you that you have to do it 100% in that sense. What we are trying to say is that you got to check your intention. You got to check your motive. Is it going to the toilet really necessary? If necessary, go ahead. If you are to walking meditation over here and you feel feverish coming in, the fever is coming in, then by all means go back to the room. It's not that you cannot do that. But while you're here, the body's everything is okay. But when the laziness or the boredom comes in, you give in to your unwholesome states of mind. And then with that, every retreat, if you were to do in this way, it creates that habit. And that habit, if you do not see it, is you are going to repeat it again and again and again and again. And then you ask yourself, how come I finished 10 days or 3 days or 5 days? I don't seem to progress after so many retreats. Yeah. Because all this little motive and everything, it truly, it becomes a hindrance. It blocks your progress. It blocks, other words, the continuity of that mindfulness. So a number of things you have to check for yourself. I cannot able to mention everything here during in the Dhamma talk. If you were to check yourself again and again, especially when you do this retreat first time, second time, what will happen to you is that in future retreats, you become a very much more disciplined yogi. That when it's time to walk, you just walk. When it's time to sit, you sit. And walk and sit and walk and sit. And every other thing, somehow or another, it does not affect you so much. Even you are sleepy, there's no thoughts of coming back that you want to go to the bed and so on. You become, the mind itself become disciplined. And that is good. That means a lot of your distractions, a lot of your distraction that come up from the mind is already reduced. So when those distractions begin to reduce, that means there's opportunity for the mindfulness become continuous. So don't underestimate all these small little actions of yours. Until 1 week later, when you stay here, you see that the yogis will, time to walk, walk, time to sit, sit, time to eat, eat. And yet you don't feel like you are being like in a cage, or when you are in a prison like that. You feel very freeing because the mind has no other burden. Even the schedule becomes very very easy for you just to follow that 1 hour walk, 1 hour sit. Sometimes, in other places, at one time at least the organizers, asked me, before the retreat starts, this retreat is quite a lot of new yogis, new meditator. And then they asked me, can the organizers send the schedule that you have to them or not? To the yogis, to the upcoming yogis that are coming in. I said no. The moment you look at it, 4 o'clock, you wake up, 10 o'clock, and walk and sit and walk and sit and walk and sit. They are not going to come. They're not going to come. So you better don't do that until you come in and you look at it and you need certain explanation. Then only you realize that it is beneficial. Without that understanding, you're going to run away. So, this is what I meant, you have to check all your actions. So when you check your actions, you check your speech, then next time you begin to understand yourself further. Long enough, that little wholesome or unwholesome state of mind. In other words, sometimes that unwholesome motives or ulterior motives, that when it starts to surface in the mind, you can quickly catch them. And if you're able to do that often enough, even this thing, this practice, you can take it back home. And next time when you start to talk, when you act or something, at least you know your ulterior motive. You know that some bad motive is coming up due to sometimes, with the way we talk, we want something or you want to do something to somebody, but you begin to check yourself, then you hold back. Yeah. So it's actually a big area that we begin to notice our state of mind. Not only just the unwholesome part, but also the wholesome part also. You know that this is helpful, this is beneficial, you know that this is wholesome, you act upon it on a suitable time. When I say the suitable time on the wholesome action, that too, you have to discern them whether it's appropriate for you to do that or not. Not just only whether it's wholesome or unwholesome, whether it is unbeneficial or beneficial. On the wholesome side, you have to take notice whether that wholesome actions of yours will also beneficial to you during in the retreat or not. Now, say for example, you're supposed to do meditation here, throughout the day, but you also like to do chanting, let's say, and you like to do 1 or 2 hours of chanting. Perhaps you are a pro. I am not. You're a pro, you want to chant for 2 hours, let's say, or 1 hour. If you do that, although it's an wholesome action, but then after that, when you start to meditate, you think the chanting will stop there when your mouth closed. No, it's going to go on and on and on and on and on and on, even while you're sitting. So with that too, it kind of become a hindrance to the practice. Not that chanting is not good. If you do too much of it, it becomes a problem. Or sometimes there are yogis and they are very good in giving service to the temple and so on. Then you're supposed to meditate, for example. You're supposed to meditate here. And then because they love to give all these services to the temple, then they take up a broom and then they sweep the whole temple or the whole building. Then it's going to take you an hour or two to finish those things, those actions. By the time you finish it, you finish this thing, your body will be tired. And then you try to walk and sit when the body is tired. Again, here, although it's wholesome, but it's not necessary at this time. But in other times, when you are not in retreat, if you have that power of that service, then ABC here will love to have you. You know, they will love to have you, or any other temple or any other organization will love to have you. Yeah. But when you are retreat, you're not supposed to do all these type of things. Yeah. At one time when I was meditating in Myanmar, this one monk who is very senior, and he came to do retreat also. But then he's a bit difficult, very restless monk. Not so easy for him to meditate. So he starts to wipe the Buddha. He starts to wipe the glasses around. Then when the teacher starts to see his attitude and the way he behaves, in the middle of the retreat, it's supposed to be a 3 months retreat, a Vasa retreat, the rains retreat. Then in the middle of it, the teacher kicked him out. Kick him out. Because restless. Yeah. So therefore all these things you have to check. You have to check your actions so that your actions are you can exercise those things at the right time. Yeah? So a number of things. I've seen yogis also, meditators also, because they practice quite well. They are very happy with their practice because are full of joy and full of faith. So what they do is that they go to the garden there and pick up a few flowers, put it on the plate, and then offer to the Buddha. Oh Lord Buddha, thank you so much for the teaching. All these things, no, not necessary. You want to do it, you do it when you go back and so on. Even that overwhelmed with joy and overwhelmed with the confidence or faith, that too, you have to take note. Yeah? Not just only the unwholesome part, but the wholesome part also. So, your job is to make sure you walk, sit, and don't do too many other things, unless it's just your small duty here and there. Your purposely the purpose we have all these retreats is to make sure that you are free from all your worldly responsibility, your job, your working, taking care of your husband or wife or children and so on, and all the house and everything. You have to put it aside. This is not, you don't have to do those things while you are here. Yeah. You don't have to cook. Food is being prepared for you. Yeah. So the responsibility of thinking of the food and so on is we've already put aside, which is good. So here, every now and then you check yourself whether your actions will be appropriate or not. If it's not appropriate, you do something that is appropriate, that it will finally, at the immediate stage, it will give rise to mindfulness. It gives rise to continuity of the mindfulness, which is important. Hmm? So again, here is discernment. You begin to discern what actions helpful and what actions are not helpful. You begin to discern where is the wholesome mind and what is the unwholesome mind. Or even you begin to discern what is wholesome at the right time, what is beneficial to you at the right time, and not beneficial at the right time. Yeah? So all these things, it makes you a much more sensitive, clear yogi. And that time you just walk, sit, walk, sit, walk, sit. Yeah? So this is one thing. Now we go on another area of discernment. Another area that you have to exercise, you have to arouse it to make that they are clear to you. The next part is to discern which is the appropriate vipassana objects and what are not vipassana objects. Which one is the suitable objects and which one is not the suitable meditation objects. Just now is talking about actions. What are suitable actions, suitable speech, unsuitable, and so on. But now we are looking into the objects. Not all objects in the meditation, in this vipassana meditation, is the right proper objects. It may be proper, it may be right, if perhaps in other forms of meditation. It may be right in other form of meditation, but not in vipassana. Yeah? Yeah. So here we're going to divide these two. What I call it the ultimate or real objects. Real or ultimate means you can directly sense it. You can directly notice it without thinking. Without thinking, without pondering, without reflection, and so on. You can directly sense. For example, you notice pain. You have to think about it. No, you don't have to. It's there. You feel it. So therefore, it is a real proper object. You notice the lifting, pushing, dropping. You notice the sensation, pressure, hardness. That one, those things are appropriate meditation object. And there are more. We're going to look into it a little bit more. What is not vipassana objects? What is not vipassana objects? Here we collectively call it conceptual object. Concept. Other words, this is created by the mind. Yeah? These objects are created by the mind. For example, you sit there and then your thought starts coming in. You think about your home. You think about your job, for example. Are they real? While you're sitting there. While you're sitting there, they are not real. They are all created by the mind. But it seems very real. It feels so real. Even if you sit there, let's say, the face of your children comes up, or the face of your husband or the wife comes up. Yeah. But the person is not there. It's just only creation of the mind. And everything you create out, the mind makes it as if like it's so real. Yeah. So when you are not careful, you dwell into their story. You go inside the content, you go inside the story, and you get dragged for a long period of time until the bell rings. Yeah. So we get caught into it. So these conceptual objects, you know, these are in a way we live in the world of concept. Yeah. We live in the world of concept. We use concept in so many different ways. For example, our name. Our name is concept. We create it out. You can have any other name. No? You can, even you name something, you name the mountain, you have a car, bicycle, a chair, for example. All these things are concept. All these things are what these one are all concept. We're living in a conceptual world, as I said. We don't live in what is exactly going on, happening. Every time what is happening, what is real, we on top of it, we cover, we layer it with all our thoughts and all our concept. Yeah. Now, in Vipassana, we want you to bring from our thinking and creating state of mind, from there we want you to bring into the real objects. Objects that you can fully sense it, fully notice it, fully aware of it that it happens. And it's difficult, really difficult, because you are so used to thinking, you are used to planning, you are so used to using words to describe and everything, rather than sensing, feeling, and directly noticing what is going on. Now, take for example the thinking. Thinking is a very an object, although they can be objects for the meditation. And yet, if you are not careful, you get drowned into it, into all the thoughts and so on. You see, when you sit down, let's say when you sit down in a sitting, then all these thoughts that arises, when you dwell into those thoughts, no matter what the thought is, as I said, however beautiful or ugly or nice or people or whatever, when you dwell into the thoughts, you are dwelling into the concept. It's created by the mind. But the thinking, the process of thinking, or the consciousness, or the mind that creates all these thoughts, the mind is a real object. Okay? The mind is real, but the created by the mind, those are unreal. Those are concept. Okay? So our job in Vipassana is to not to dwell into the story at the created state of mind, but to bring the mind to its consciousness, to bring the mind, to bring the awareness to the noticing that mind that creates these thoughts. Because the mind is in the present moment. It creates out so many other things. Then when it creates out, it can be the past, present, future, and so on. But the one that creating it is in the present. Because if you don't have the state of that mind, then there's no thinking. There's no thoughts. There's no creation. Yeah. So, now in order for us to notice the thinking, in order for us to notice the thinking, here is a skill. It's a skill that will be good that after a number of days, when you begin to build up the mindfulness, then also we slowly transform all the thinking mind into a meditation object. That means we begin to notice the object itself, or the thinking process itself. So here, when let's say you sit down there and the thoughts come in, you tell yourself, hey, don't go inside the story. Don't get drowned into the story. Don't get drowned into the contents or the history or the creation and everything. Your job is supposed to pull out. And then when you pull out, as if like you are sitting out there and watching the thoughts passing through. You watch the thoughts passing through one after another. Now, if you could do that, yeah. And then while you're doing it, this time you also learn to label it as thinking, 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 or planning, planning, planning. Don't worry what you plan. Don't get enticed by your own planning. If you get enticed into it, you get attached to it, you will carry on the planning. Because the planning is more interesting than the meditation. The story is so much more interesting. But don't get trapped into it. Once you get trapped into it, it's so easy for the mind to just cut off the whole mindfulness. And you want to come back, sometimes it's difficult, or it takes you a while. So, what will be good is that when we begin to walking or sitting, what will be good is that if you can catch the beginning of the thinking. So let's say you're not rising and falling, you notice the thoughts coming, thinking, or planning. If you can catch those things, that will be good. At least you have to try. If you don't, you're not going to succeed all the time. But in the beginning part, if you try a little bit here and there, it gives you the confidence that actually you could do it. But if you don't try, oh, Bhante, I got so much thinking, I cannot do it, then you already failed. Yeah. So make the effort. When the thoughts come in, don't follow its story. Then just note it as if like you're stepping out there. Note it as thinking, or planning, or restless, or history. Yeah. Sometimes when you note these type of thoughts, sometimes the emotion part of it, the emotional state also comes together with it. Not just only a plain equanimous thought is there. Sometimes it comes with sadness. Sometimes it comes with happiness. So that sadness, that happiness, they are real present object. Because you could feel it. You could sense it. Now, if that sadness becomes strong, then what you should do? Cover it up. No, Vipassana is about seeing as they are, meaning that sadness. You have to see them as it is. If the fear arises, then not the fear. If sometimes anger arises, then anger. The anger is one thing. The face that you don't like, or the person you don't like it, also another thing. But most of the time, we don't look at anger, but we really don't like the person but it's all created by the mind. Right now, while you are sitting, the person is not there. It's only the mind is created out, and it looks so real. And 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 sometimes the whole incident of the past, it becomes it's kind of like you recall, and then as if like the film or the cinema of sitting there, you keep on going and going and going. So you got to be careful. Don't fall into it. Uh, like you see, this mind, it can create so many things, and it makes our world, not the physical world, but the mental world. It makes it so real inside there. But it's all hollow, all nothing. It's only a mental creation. It's just like when you go to the cinema, it's the whole screen is larger than life, they call it. But is anyone inside the screen? But then when you watched it, you cry. When you watch it, you get so happy. But there's nobody there. So too, our mind is something like that. It creates all this thing out, but there's no person inside there, inside the mind. It's just all these are all creation. But the feeling that comes with it, the emotion that comes with it, these are real. The anger that comes with it, these are real. So your job here is to notice the present one. If the anger arises, the emotion arises, then you notice them as they are. If the emotion is not there, then just notice as thinking, planning. Again, here you don't expect that the thinking or the emotion is going to immediately go away. No, it will not do that yet. It will take its time because your defilements of your mind is also very strong. Your little mindfulness that you have, you want to overcome that strong defilements. It's going to take you some time. You're going to build that thing up first. You're going to build that mindfulness up first. But at least you know how to deal with them. So the moment as you get stronger, actually, as the mindfulness gets stronger, better, more continuous, later, and then you will see that certain thoughts that arises that usually comes with that anger. Next time, the thoughts still arise, but the anger doesn't arise. It overcomes, the mindfulness has taken over, and it just look at the thoughts as just thoughts, and it let it pass through. That means, in other words, you are free from that anger, at least for a period of time. Or you're free from that sadness. Sometimes some people, whenever they think of their departed ones or their departed mother or departed husband or wife, they start to cry and cry. Very emotionally get caught up in it. But then in Vipassana, even if your mindfulness gets stronger, then even that thoughts that arises, in the past that it hurts you, you feel a lot of emotion. But this time, as it gets stronger, the mindfulness begin to take over the sadness. But the memory is still there. The memory, you don't change, you don't really change the memory. The memory is still there, but the emotion state is not more there. So, but most of the time, if we do not know about this Vipassana, we just want to cover up that memory. We don't realize is that the fear, the anger is the culprit. We just want to cover up that memory. We don't want to see those things because we cannot deal with it. So you're catching the snake at the wrong end. Because if you catch the snake at its tail, if you are not careful, the head is going to come back to you. So do the same thing when you deal with this state of mind. If you can cover the memory, which is not the right one, because the memory is not going to change. What is going to change is the anger, is the sadness, is the doubt, and the unwholesome state. That you can change. And how you change it? You change it with mindfulness. You change it with loving kindness. You change it with gratitude. You change it with compassion and so on. But since we are doing here right now, which we overcome them by mindfulness, we overcome them by wisdom. So it can do something towards the mind. So here, again here, you have to learn to differentiate them. So whenever you are sitting, if the thought arises, just note it as thinking, and you remind yourself, don't go inside the story, don't go inside the content, don't drown into it. Another thing, concept doesn't mean it is not helpful. They are helpful. Right now I'm giving a talk here. It is concept. It's still helpful because when I talk, when I give you all the pointers, perhaps tomorrow you start doing it, which is helpful. Yeah? Another one that is concept, which is also helpful, is our labeling. Labeling, it's concept. But the sensation that you notice, hardness, softness, lifting, pushing, dropping, those are reality. Those are real. Yeah? The labeling, it's helpful because especially if you're starting this retreat, first few days, even you have done a number of retreats in the past, or this is the first retreat that they are doing, then here the labeling helps you to direct the mind towards the object. You have to learn to direct the mind, learn how to aim the mind towards the object. Until you get used to it, until you have sufficient progress in the later part, then later the labeling also will begin to reduce them and just see the object as they are. It is helpful. So in so many ways, this labeling is going to be helpful to direct the mind onto your object, whether in the walking, sitting, daily activities like eating and so on. So don't underestimate this labeling. They are helpful. But they are not the actual meditation object. Some people, some yogis, they are, like they are so very meticulous about their words and speech and their sentence. So when they, let's say when they lift up the leg, they have to have the right word for it, Is it lifting up or raising up? They have to get it right. You don't have to be too worried about the words. Your job is to pay attention to the sensation, not about the exact words. Then you can use English, you can use Mandarin, you can use whatever dialect you want to use. It's still alright. You want to use Vietnamese, you want to use Spanish. Doesn't matter. What matters is that you pay attention to the object. So, something like that. There are some people who are so concerned about those words. Anyway, we'll stop here for tonight. We'll continue on this tomorrow night. Okay.